Next up is Sherry Fenn. Sherry, how are you?
Hi, good.
Good.
Ready? Hi, I'm looking for help because I've not received any going through the proper law enforcement channels. I'm a victim of domestic violence and my civil rights have been violated by the Stanislaus County Sheriff and District Attorney. My ex-husband, who worked for the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department as a sergeant, physically attacked me on several occasions throughout our marriage. He gave me a severe concussion when he attacked me in April 2011. He put me in wrist locks and swept my feet, slamming me on the back of my head on a tile floor. He got on top of me and continued to slam the back of my head into the tile floor and hit me. Several more attacks occurred, one with him breaking into my house at 3:40 a.m. while my children and I were sound asleep. He was working as the most senior patrol sergeant and watch commander over the entire county. He hit me in the face with a set of keys and my 10-year-old son in the mouth with a shoe, causing him to bleed. He held his hand on his gun, standing over my bed, screaming at me in his Stanislaus County Sheriff uniform. I took video of him in my room from my phone. On both occasions, he told me that the sheriff would do nothing to help me because he is a sergeant with the sheriff's department and I am nobody. He told me that the sheriff would not listen to me or believe me, that bad things would happen to me and my children if I tried to turn him in. In October 2011, I tried to set up a meeting with Sheriff Christensen via email. I was desperate for help because my ex-husband harassed, stalked, and threatened me every night. I thought the sheriff would be my best bet for help. Sheriff Christensen responded that it was inappropriate to speak with me. Just as my ex told me the sheriff would not help me, I tried several more times to contact the sheriff via email as the stalking, threats, and harassment got worse. I got responses from the sheriff. It was inappropriate to talk to me. I felt helpless as a victim at the hands of a sergeant with the sheriff's department. I received threatening messages right after I got the courage to file for divorce. The message referred to me filing for divorce and stated that they had something planned to do to me. So I made another attempt to contact the sheriff, who had ignored me for a year and a half. I threatened a civil lawsuit if he didn't meet with me. He agreed to the meeting. I got my meeting in January 2014, 2.5 years after the physical assaults and 2.5 years continued harassments, threats of violence, and fear for the safety of my children and I. I presented to the sheriff and Captain Ralph Gemente and explained all the abuse what me and my children had been going through. The sheriff came across uncaring, aggressive towards me. His attitude showed he was bothered by me being there and didn't care to listen to me. I was passed off to Sergeant Keith Rockensaw when Ralph Gemente gave me a card to contact Rockensaw. I went home sending several emails for 3 weeks just to be ignored. I was then passed off to Lieutenant Mike Radford, who continued the unprofessional, unethical behavior. Radford interviewed me about the physical assaults. I gave him videos of the attacks, text messages from my ex admitting the attacks and the injuries that I endured, witness statements, and a signed medical release. Radford sat on the case to let the statutes run for over a year so he could cover for his coworker. I know this goes on at the Sheriff's Department because I've heard my ex talk about the cases in the past where he and other deputies victims the runaround to protect one of their own. 6 months after Lieutenant Radford's lack of criminal investigation, he called me into the Waterford substation. He interrogated me about filing for child support for my youngest son, who my ex does not have visitation with because he is violent and abusive. Radford accused me of setting my ex up even though there was more than enough evidence to prove otherwise. After sending a certified letter to the sheriff stating that I was making a complaint with the Attorney General's office, I got an email from Ralph Gemente stating that he had sent me over to the DA's office and it was assigned to Dave Harris on January 15th, 2015, over a year later after the initial report. I called several times a month for over a year to the DA's office to see if my case ever made it there. I was told over and over that my case was never sent to the DA's office by the Sheriff's Department. I spoke with up to 8 different people at the DA's office who told me that my case had never been in their system and it has never been sent there. So Ralph Gemente lied to me. I finally received a call from Dave Harris a year later after he ignored my several phone message requests to speak with him about my case. Dave Harris told me that he had rejected my case 3 times for lack of evidence. I explained that could not be possible because I turned over a lot of evidence. I asked him what evidence he had with the report. He danced around my question, stating he didn't have my case in front of him and he couldn't tell me anything about my case other than he knew it involved the sergeant with the sheriff's department. He told me that he was waiting on me to sign a medical release for the sheriff's department. I had signed one over a year prior. He told me he would send me something in writing in 2 weeks, what he planned on doing with my case. I never received anything from Dave Harris. I made a complaint with the Attorney General's Office of California about the corruption on my case and the Sheriff's Department and District Attorney. The AG's office contacted the Sheriff's Department and spoke with Rockensaw, who said it was still an open investigation and they were still working on it. The AG's office called Dave Harris within minutes after speaking with Rockensaw, who told them that he had rejected the case because it wasn't provable. These two kept their lies straight. The Sheriff's Office and Dave Harris went above and beyond to cover up a criminal while the victims suffer. They have violated my civil rights and they are corrupt. My question is, why does the sheriff and the deputy district attorney think they are more powerful than God and do not uphold the United States Constitution? Who helps the victims of domestic violence when it's at the hands of one of their own and they do everything to protect the criminal? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Doris